Alright, you've gotta face it, a movie tie-in game released on the Nintendo DS, which is also a sequel to a rather shabby original. The game I mean, not the movie. That was awesome. Well, anyway, it doesn't sound like a recipe for success, but bear with me. Iron Man 2 is one of those movies which has to end up with its own range of multi-platform games, and anyone would instinctively believe that the DS version to be the worst. Thankfully, the developers this time around knew the DS's limitations and have made a side-scrolling shooter more suited for Nintendo's dual-screen system. Is it any good? Well, I'm about to tell you. One of the major distinctions in this DS game is that it doesn't use the plot of the film. If you're expecting the story of Iron Man 2, the movie, played out from its beginning, then you're going to be puzzled. Now, I've never read an Iron Man comic before, but I can tell you, you're going to recognise more characters if you have. War Machine is a new character in the Iron Man 2 movie, and he's played by Don Cheadle. I saw him in the movie trailer, and this game has him as an acknowledged character from the get-go. This confused me a bit. I mean, there's Tony, there's Pepper. Who the f*** are you? I mean, it's only because I waited till the end of the credits on the first movie I knew who Old Eye Patch was here. The game is devoid of voice acting or facial animation, but the writing is well written. They've managed to capture Tony Stark's and Pepper's characters quite well, but overall the narrative does feel underwhelming, and it's certainly not this game's selling point. One feature I liked about this game is that you can play as both Iron Man and War Machine. So you might be thinking, well, the two are the same, right? War Machine is just an Iron Man suit spray painted in black. As with a lot of action games where you can choose multiple characters, one is fast and one is slow but more powerful. But the major distinction between the two are the control schemes. Iron Man uses the D-pad and buttons to move and attack, whereas War Machine uses the touchscreen. I really like this as it feels like you're getting two games in one. Iron Man has simple attack and shoot buttons, and he flies by pressing the jump button twice to get airborne and holding down the jump button to boost. Flying feels very natural and it's fun to just whisk about the levels a bit. Combat for Iron Man centers around avoiding enemy attacks and shooting and melee attacking the hell out of them when you've got an opening. One thing I should mention though is that your trigger finger will get a workout, as the Iron Man part of the game can sometimes turn into one hell of a button masher. War Machine uses the touchscreen and its control scheme bears a very similar resemblance to first-person shooters such as Metroid Prime Hunters. You use the D-pad to move and the touchscreen to aim. Holding down on the touchscreen will make War Machine spill bullets aplenty. Tapping in the desired direction will make him toss a rocket, and holding down L whilst hovering over enemies with your stylus will lock on rockets to them. It's an effective control scheme which is fun to use. Playing as War Machine upped the difficulty for me though. Due to War Machine not being as fast, dodging enemy fire is more challenging, and it can be all too easy to get pummeled by projectiles. Luckily, when either character snuffs it, you can enter a minigame to try and get your systems back online. You have to match up purple dots on a circular rotatable display. Once you've matched them up, you can get back to kicking butt again. Admittedly, this feels tacked on, but I found it tremendously useful in the harder levels. The game also has its share of boss battles, and this really makes the game feel old school, as it is classic side-scrolling action, and at the end of every level, there's a boss. Some of the bosses are quite challenging to face, but some not so much. A lot of boss battles can be won just by staying back and shooting like mad. It's not a game killer, but some sort of system where you can shoot bosses in weak areas or at certain times would have made these battles a bit more interesting. At the end of every mission you earn experience points which can be used to upgrade your equipment. So for example, you could increase War Machine's fire rate or Iron Man's speed. You can also unlock new attacks, and these certainly help Iron Man in particular, as you don't have to rely on button mashing so much. The game got better and better as more was unlocked, and the variety made the game more enjoyable to play. There's also some bonus items such as game art to find here. There's also Iron Man covers you can find throughout the levels, and at first I thought I might be able to read some of the Iron Man comics, but you can't, it's just the covers. This seemed pretty pointless to me. If I wanted to see some Iron Man comic covers, I'd just use Google image search. Iron Man 2 for the DS actually looks pretty good for a movie tie-in game. The 2.5D look works well, and the enemy and character models are reminiscent of the PlayStation 1, so it kinda fits in with this game's rather old school feel. Like I said, voice acting and facial animation doesn't exist, which is a shame as this could have seriously helped the game's narrative. Animation is also pretty smooth, although I did notice the frame rate drop during the game's more intense moments. Iron Man 2 surpassed my rather low expectations, and it actually turned out to be a competent side-scrolling action game. The game is obviously geared towards Iron Man fans, and I don't think they'll be disappointed. For the rest of you, I say don't be turned off by this game's movie reference, as it's a lot of fun to play, and it's definitely worth at least a rental. I'm going to give Iron Man 2 for the Nintendo DS an 8 out of 10.